problem is what Trump is known for, isn't it? Is on that god awful TV show he does. You know, he points at people and go, "You're fired." So maybe it's a nervous tick for him. It's like if I
Yes.
did well by firing people back then, maybe I'm still going to do well, with this sort of thing.
To which I would say, congratulations, everyone who has been sworn into Trump's cabinet. If you don't end up liking the job, don't worry, you will probably not be there for very long.
Yes, there is that, isn't it?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Washington to Westminster, the ocean spanning podcast that gives you updates on politics in two countries for the price of one. My name is Andrea Bridges-Smith from the Phoenix News Network, and with me here from the Interesting Times, all the way over in the UK, it's Matt Johnston. Matt, how the heck are you?
Well, Andrew, actually, I think probably the first question is, how are you?
Well, I am not bored, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you heard, but this week Trump basically made an epic power grab. This is going to be a bit of a recurring theme for us, I think. And he basically took control of the entire government. And he said that only he and the Attorney General will be able to determine what the law is moving forward. Now, this means that Congress, who makes the laws, doesn't get to decide what the laws are, even though that's like their whole entire job.
Yeah.
And then you have the judicial branch who decides if someone has broken the law. They don't get to do that either. And then the executive branch, which enforces the laws, they all report to Trump now. There are no more independent bodies that are free from his control. So that's a little alarming.
Yeah, I'd say so. Well, just to let you know that I and every one of my non-American subscribers are here for you. We're here for you, America, whatever you need.
Well, thank you. I think what we need right now is some expired shrimp cocktail at the Mar-a-Lago buffet, but I digress.
So anyway, I can only apologise as I was clearly wrapped up in my own echo chamber and completely missed that America had to go for a decade, mind, to have to deal with Greta Thunberg.
Oh,
where
yes.
she would join protests, including some of them in the US, where she would talk about climate change for what, half a dozen times over that 10 years? I mean, how do you even deal with that level of trauma, Andrew?
It's awful. We have been held prisoner by a teenage girl for far too long.
Well, anyway, this, of course, is following the latest installment of what I assume is part of a reality show where your vice president goes to different parts of the world and just rabbits on bizarre nonsense. It's kind of a role reversal on Borat, right? I mean, you've seen
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And this week he was in Munich, where people assumed he would be talking about our collective response to Putin's aggression. But people, what do they know?
Yes, everything that we know is very different now. It's changed a lot.
So instead, JD just started talking errant crap. I'm unsure where he gets that from.
Yes, very mysterious.
And he said that if the US had to put up with Greta Thunberg for a decade, then Europe could put up with Elon Musk for a few months.
Okay, first of all, we have been putting up with him since he looked like this. Okay, he's been at it for a while.
Yeah, and for a few months, or what does JD Vance know that maybe Elon Musk himself doesn't? Is he going to be there for a few years?
I think JD Vance would like to go back to being vice president, and there's someone who is a
Yes.
little bit in the way. So yeah.
I mean, JD Vance said it clearly as a joke, but you wouldn't know it based on the reaction it got.
And trust me, I say this with all humor. If American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk.
Now, the Germans, to be fair, don't exactly have a world-beating reputation for comedy, right? But I think the stunned silence on this particular occasion showed that they got this one right. I mean, you've got to feel for the translators there, though, right? I mean, how many of them are likely to have been fired after Vance delivered that? They kind of turn around going, "You idiot, that's clearly not what he said. You're just giving me ridiculous ramblings."
Yes, and now that Google's bent the knee to fascism, there's no telling what Google Translate would have come up with instead.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing JD anyway is very much part of a triple threat to us in Europe, alongside Hegseth, who played hardball with Putin by giving everything he wants, basically saying Ukraine won't join NATO and Putin can keep the land he robbed. Well, to be fair, that's how America got started. Sorry, Andrea.
Yes, in retrospect, that may have been a dick move on our part.
So, anyway, here we are. A warped psychotic maniac is preparing to finish the job in Ukraine, boosted by Chinese and North Korean allies. The tripod of terrible, I'm going to go with. And our big brother, our friend, the one for the last 80 years we have always been able to tip the balance in our favour, America, is lost to a thin-skinned simpleton who claims Ukraine started the war and that Zelensky is a dictator with a 4% approval rating. And he surrounded himself with sycophants and unqualified looters.
Yeah, it's very weird to suddenly find ourselves on the same side as Russia and China and North Korea. I guess before you know it, we'll be chilling poolside with Iran.
Hey, yes. Although Iran, the way that Iran's going, it's going to turn a bit more woke, shall we say, as far as how America's looking.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, anyway, a lot of people have been attacking the US over this, and I get it. And I would say, just like to say to you, Andrea, and all the rest of our viewers, don't worry, because as bad as it may get in Europe, and I don't want to worry you, but I think it's going to get a whole lot worse in the States.
Yeah, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
I would say that the right over here is really sowing some wild oats right now. And there's lots of these little things that are happening that you wouldn't dare see in the last administration or any others prior to this one. For instance, can you imagine if a Democrat had tried to make Joe Biden's birthday a federal holiday? We would have had nuclear instant outrage.
Yeah, they would have been called in a bunch of elites that had no idea about how the common man lived, etc., etc.
Right,
I mean, are they going to do that? Are they going to have a convicted President's Day?
That's what they're trying. When it's Dear Leader Trump, bring on the national holidays. They're talking about naming a mountain after him, all sorts of things like this. But no one seems to have figured out quite how to tame inflation, which started going back up last month. It turns out that even if you blame Joe Biden for rising inflation and rising prices, that it doesn't quite fix the problems.
Yeah,
Mysterious.
They're going to name a mountain after. Are they going to call it Trump's ass?
Appropriate
Honestly,
name.
at the end of all this, I think that's what they should do. Give it another 4 years, and you'll have earned. You just allow people to name that. It's going to be like us naming that Boaty McBoatface.
Yes,
It's going to be,
exactly.
it's going to be the same thing. So anyway, well, yes, you mentioned about the economy. I'm back to asking about the price of eggs again. Seeing all the warring, manipulation, and gutting of the US from the guy elected to protect it, we seem to have forgotten about that. So have they gone up? Have they come down?
The prices are still high. This is fun. This is just, see if this is how you would play this card. Their prices are high because there is a bird flu outbreak. And so a bunch of chickens have had to been killed to try and stop the outbreak. It's not working. There was a bunch of people at the USDA who were working on trying to address the bird flu, and a bunch of them got fired accidentally. In all the firing people that went on, a bunch of them got fired, and then they were like, "Oh, hang on, we need those guys. Get those guys back in here." So just curious if that's how the UK would handle a bird flu outbreak, by just firing the people that are trying to fix it. Does that sound right to you?
No, that doesn't sound good at all. The problem is what Trump is known for, isn't it? Is on that god awful TV show he does. He points at people and go, "You're fired." So maybe it's a nervous tick for him. It's like,
Yes.
if I did well by firing people back then, maybe I'm still going to do well, with this sort of thing.
To which I would say, congratulations, everyone who has been sworn into Trump's cabinet. If you don't end up liking the job, don't worry, you will probably not be there for very long.
Yes, there is that, isn't it? Well, over here in the UK, it's been a funny one, really, because in my last video I put out last Sunday, I was laying into Starmer, very much on his approach to when it came to immigrants. I know we spoke about that last week. But this week, I will be giving him, quite rightly, some high praise. I mean, he hasn't wavered in his support for Ukraine, even if he hasn't at least called out Trump for being a lying toe rag.
Yes, exactly. We have to give him some credit for that. You guys actually have given me a lot of hope. And the reason for that is that in the end, public opinion wins the day, right?
Yeah.
You guys were able to bounce Liz Truss in about a month. Rishi Sunak, inside of 2 years, public opinion turned against them and off they went. Now, of course, public opinion turned against Joe Biden and out he went. But if there is one thing that I can guarantee you in this world besides death and taxes, it is that public opinion is going to turn back against Trump once more. We are already starting to see that in polls. He's only been in office for a month, and people are starting to be like, yeah, wait a minute. And I believe that even despite the power grab, he's no match for a whole entire nation of people that hates him. It's happened before, and given all that he is doing now and all of the people that he is hurting on both sides of the aisle, I think that that tide is on its way to turning rather quickly. It may not be lettuce quick, but maybe a rutabaga.
Oh, right. Okay, I'll keep an eye out. But the question is, what's he going to do then? I mean, turning around and saying, fair enough. Sorry, I'm going to do the impression there. Turning around and saying, fair enough. It's clear I'm not up to the job. I'll just stay in post until you find someone better qualified. I mean, that's not really Trump's thing, is it? So, I mean, he sided with someone who clamps down hard on dissenting voices. Do you think Trump would do the same over in the States?
Of course, he'll do everything that he can to try and stay in power, but he is going to need people around him to carry out those orders. And he can't do that if everyone hates him. And the people who work for him for longer than 10 minutes tend to end up hating him.
Right. There's an old Spike. Have you ever heard of a comedian called Spike Milligan?
No, I don't think so.
He was part of the original something called the Goon Squad. And they had all these sort of basically he served in World War II along with Michael Benteen and some various other people. Anyway, they were very much the original Monty Pythons. They would do sort of kind of ridiculous sort of nonsense and stuff. And he had some great lines. One of his lines was some chap came up to him and said, why do people take an instant dislike to me? And Spike Milligan said, well, it saves time. That sounds like it with Trump, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, it's like, just skip ahead. That's where you're going. Just skip ahead to it. We didn't have to do this whole election thing. You could just skip ahead to the part where you started disliking him again. So.
You just get this feeling with certain people that that's where they're heading, don't you? It's just like, no matter how well they seem to get on, you just know somewhere down the line there's going to be a car crash. The car's going to be flipped over. They're going to be blaming each other for it.
Yes, exactly. Or in the case of America, this week a plane flipped over. So it could be that.
They can't feign enthusiasm for each other and, warmth and generosity for each other, can they? They just can't do it.
No, and that's the problem of having a bunch of awful people all in a viper's nest together is vipers bite each other. So.
Right. So anyway, Andrea, what with World War III and the death of the US happening before summer, it has been heavier than an American president on a cheeseburger-only diet this week. So how would you like to help me lighten the mood?
That is the only thing I want to do right now.
All right. So following Trump's comments, the most inflammatory response we got from the British government is along the lines of, well, we don't have to agree on everything. I mean, yeah, no shit, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to give you some US words and you'll see if you can tell me what the British version is. And for the US viewers, we can leave a bit of a pause for them to, pause the video so they can play along. How about it?
Okay, sounds good. I'm ready. I think I'm going to be good at this.
The first American word is jelly like peanut butter and jelly sandwich. What is the British equivalent? Do you know?
Is it, I don't know, I want to say jam, but we have jam over here too. Is it jam?
It is jam, yeah.
Yes.
Apparently, though, it's slightly different, isn't it? Jelly and jam are slightly different, but that's the nearest thing I could find with peanut butter and jelly. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, very good. 1 for 1. How? On to the second one. Hood, as in hood of a car. You pop the hood. What would you pop in Old Blighty?
Oh, let's see. I think, I'm not sure if this is Australian or British, but is it a bonnet?
It is a bonnet.
Ah!
Yes, very good. The Brits coming out now, isn't it? There we go. And while we're on the subject, what about the other end? What do Brits call the trunk?
Oh, the boot.
The boot. Brilliant. Okay.
All right. Oh, I'm so good at this game.
Bit now. The next one is 3 for 3. And no
Okay.
giggling, please. But
Okay.
what is a rubber? What might you use a rubber for?
It is over here you would say that it was a condom. Over there you would call it a
Yeah.
condom, which I think is
Not that rubber.
it's not. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. What else could it be? Is
Let me
that
put it another way. You would actually use it in the classroom.
oh, like an eraser?
A razor. Bing.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Well
Okay.
done. Uh,
Well, that
and the
makes sense
final one, I
because
always,
you have to
sorry?
rub to. It does
Yes,
make
as
sense
in
because you
rub
have to.
things
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And finally, bangs. This one always confuses me, bangs. But what do the British call bangs?
First of all, can we agree that bangs is a ridiculous thing to call that? It doesn't make any sense. I have no idea where that came from, but I think it is fringe.
Fringe. Yeah, yeah. Spot on. I'm
Oh, I'm so
genuinely
good at
confused
this.
why the Americans call them bangs.
Yeah, I have no idea why it's called that.
Because I thought bangs as in, if you've got one fringe, as in we call it a fringe, we don't call it fringes because you got one fringe. So if you've
Right.
got bangs, it's like two of them. So that's always confused me. I like when people are like, oh, look at my, these girls would be, oh, look at my bangs, that sort of thing. I'll be sitting there thinking, well, hang on a minute, you've only got one sort of bang.
So I have
Well,
a
you wouldn't
question
call
for
it
you
a
about
bang.
this. I'm curious if it's the same over in the UK, but over here, if a woman decides to get bangs, then the hairstylist generally likes to check on them to make sure that they are okay. Because when you make like a big hair change decision, it's like, you all right over there? You sure? You sure that that's
Okay.
gonna fix the problem if we do bangs? So is it like that over in the UK, or do you just go and get it if you want it?
Yeah, pretty much you kind of go in and sort of ask. I think they would still check that you wanted it. I wouldn't say it's irreversible, but it's a slow process to write it, isn't it? You don't want
Right.
the Britney Spears going out with a,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Or the Cameron Diaz from that movie, with the hair gel. Have you seen that?
Oh,
There's
yes,
something about
yes.
Mary. It's the most
Uh,
famous bangs that have ever existed.
Nothing quite says 2000s movie like There's Something About Mary. And that scene from There's Something About Mary.
It
Everybody
is,
remembers that scene.
yes, it is quintessential.
And I'm sure we'll get us through some dark times in the next few years.
Yes, if anybody needs something silly to just take your mind off of things, that's an excellent place to start.
Good advice there. Good advice. Thank you all very much for joining us today. I hope it hasn't made you want to go skydiving without a parachute, but things will get better, honestly, won't they, Andrea?
Yes, yes.
Good. And a good way to keep your spirits up and keep with the news, is to subscribe to Andrea's channel. You're right here at Phoenix News Network, and to mine for the UK stuff, which isn't quite so in your face, at theinterestingtimes.co.uk. And we will see you all next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.